What is up, boxing besties? Welcome back to Xicana Boxing on YouTube. And if this is your first time, hi. My name is Lily. I am an independent boxing journalist who sometimes gets on here and yaps about whatever's going on in boxing, like today, especially after covering a boxing card live. So if you are into all things boxing, exclusive content, fight week shenanigans, and also some boxing yapping, you can go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications, and then we'll all become boxing besties. So, yeah, this weekend I went ahead and covered Jake Paul versus Chavez Jr. And I'm past, discussing whether Jake Paul is good or bad for the sport because I feel like at this point with him, everything that he's doing for women's boxing and the time that he does put into the promotion, not him, his team, right, into the promotion and promoting their young talent, I do think that, he does in a way has paid his reparations, right, for taking space in the sport. With that being said, it was not surprising. As a Mexican, of course, we all kind of, and I said we, I guess just me and my friends, felt like we really wanted Chavez Jr. to win. And all fight week, they were telling us that this was the best he's ever looked. And as a person, I just want to give him all the props for, as a former or, someone who is fighting, right, addiction. For him to just complete a camp and fight somebody, even if it is Jake Paul, I think that's commendable. So good for you, Julio. But yeah, both Jake Paul and him fell on that promise that they made on Fight Week. Jake Paul said he was gonna knock out and embarrass Chavez Jr., which honestly, like, he didn't knock him out, and to embarrass, like, he's done that enough for him and his entire lineage. So I think he didn't really have to prove anything to us. And as for Chavez Jr., he said he was gonna take Jake Paul to school and teach him that, get him out of the sport, and he didn't do nothing up until like the last two rounds, and he even put his hands up like he had won. So that's just as far as I'm gonna take it. With just some updates too from the post-fight press conference where Jake Paul said that he would like either Zurdo or AJ, and that Canelo's not out of the picture. He even mentioned Tank in there, so he's all over the weight classes, right? And he also said that he is getting VADA testing. He is just now a real fighter, not just, exhibition wise. And because of that, he feels that he does want to take on Anthony Joshua, and that could happen as early as next year. And with, Anthony having that fight with Ngannou and not having the best luck in boxing, I feel like maybe this is the right move for AJ. But the whole thing with Zurdo seems kind of like just for promotion and because Zurdo just happened to be sharing the card. Because honestly, I don't think Jake Paul would really want to go from the likes of Chavez Jr. to Zurdo Ramirez, who I do want to move on, right? To talk about, because I think I've talked about this before, where Zurdo has not necessarily been a guy that's impressed me, or oh my god, this guy's so amazing. Not even when he was at 168, he was champ there, but I just never really found him all that special. Really, my favorite part about his entire career was when he said "Me peló la verga." Como decimos, me peló la verga. And honestly, probably that's still my favorite. But he has improved a lot, especially after he, disappointed a lot of Mexican fans, just fans in general, with his fight against Reebold, which he asked for so much and ended up not having really anything as artillery to basically have Reebold fear him in any way inside the ring. So, with his short stay at 168 and then at 175 not really doing much. Now at cruiserweight, even though a lot of people feel like it's a weight class that doesn't matter, it doesn't matter because it matters now that Zurdo made history in it as a champion, right? As a Mexican champion at cruiserweight, unified. And in my opinion, this opponent, Dorticos, was his toughest opponent since taking on B-Roll, right? And getting just completely embarrassed. But Dorticos is a former champ from Cuba. He has been at cruiserweight for way longer, right? He has already been, and he's already came and went in the division. And I feel like this was a really solid opponent for Zurdo, to where even at one point I was even like, man, he might lose this one. Because again, I didn't really see anything in that before had shown me that, oh my god, he's amazing, right? And yes, he beat Mbili, but I had not, maybe I was just not familiar enough or previously impressed by Mbili to really care about sort of beating him like that. But I did hold Ortegos to a high regard, and I felt like with Zurdo beating him, it definitely made me appreciate Zurdo more, because yes, a lot of people might be like, oh, Triple Z, Zurdo, he might not have a sense of maybe urgency to get the knockout, but I just feel like he's still, fresh in the division. Yes, he's a unified champion, but regardless, this guy, as big as he was used to, being the much bigger guy against his opponents, and now has to go against guys who are gonna absorb all that power and who also hit hard. Torticos is a hard. He's known for having hard fist. So it's just like I don't. Maybe he could have obviously taken more risks, but I think the fight was entertaining within itself, at least for me watching it there. And that's why I made him the cover of the newsletter, which y'all should subscribe to, by the way, because I felt like instead of just being another type of person who's like Jake Paul is bad for the sport and who is watching Chavez Jr. Ha ha ha, like you guys are lame. Why would I focus on the negative? And I'd rather just highlight Zurdo, who is a Mexican champion, made history both in, I think he was like the first Mexican super middleweight champ right before Canelo. And then he became champ at cruiserweight, making history now unified. So he is making his own type of really good accomplishments. And if he's able to beat Opataya, which we'll get there when we'll get there, because whew, we'll get there. I don't think he wins, but he did improve a lot, and I do feel like that fight. I look forward to that fight way more now after seeing Zurdo's improvements. Let's just say that, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud. Viva Mexico, cabrones. Que viva Sinaloa, que viva la Guachile. Now in the undercard, we also saw Avius Griffin get stopped by Julian Hammer Hands Rodriguez, and honestly, this fight was pretty freaking boring. And I felt bad saying this because Coach Red and Bomac were in Griffin's corner, right? He was the favorite one to win on Saturday, and it was a pretty boring fight. And Griffin had dropped Rodriguez, I believe, sometime around like the 5th or the 6th round, but. Rodriguez came back and Rodriguez was able to take advantage of the fact that Griffin seemed to get a little passive aggressive or kind of get, a little petty inside the ring sometimes, but with both of them throwing punches after the bell. And it seemed like they were kind of, getting frustrated at each other in there, right? But in the last seconds, I believe 5 seconds before the fight ended, he was able to knock him out almost into the ropes, and it was really freaking cool to witness. I always love to see the underdog win just because it's so emotional, and honestly, it was really cool to have one of those knockout victories, right, when it's like the last second. So really cool to have that on the card. We also had Raul Curiel win his fight, and it was a really good fight because his opponent, I believe he has his same last name too, Rodriguez, and he was really banking on landing that hook. You could tell that he was really packing some power and sitting on that hook. He kept trying to land, and it did hurt Curiel a couple times. I mean, hurt, but you could tell that Curiel was clinching and he was kind of folding a little bit to try to protect himself. But eventually he did well. He adapted and he was able to land the better punches in the exchanges. And even when they did get in the middle of the ring, or even when he did have him against the ropes, he was able to kind of get out and keep going on his game plan, and it worked perfectly because he was able to stop Rodriguez, who honestly seemed dangerous even in early. But the welterweight division right now with Ennis moving up is kind of getting the belts are getting redistributed, and with this was being the WBA welterweight eliminator, I feel like he might be maybe another champ, right, for RGBA for Robert Garcia. So we'll see who he goes. He mentioned Rolly, right? That's the champ at WBA. But also, I think they mentioned the winner of Pacquiao versus Barrios. So the welterweight division right now at this point, just anybody can get it, and I would just love to see again maybe another Mexican champ that we can get, since Curiel is from Guadalajara, but we'll see because it's a lot going on. And lastly, honestly, it hurt me to see Tevin Farmer go out like this, y'all. Because Tevin Farmer I talked about him in the last video, right? He's so cool to me, and it was just crazy. We were not even at our seats yet. Bryant, my correspondent, and I were going to sit down, and we were first going to stop by the merch table just to check out the merch, as we do. And we heard a whoa, and we turned around to check out the TVs, and yeah, we saw Tevin Farmer on the floor, and we're just like, the fight just started. So, we were in the middle of purchasing our stuff, so we couldn't just leave. And yeah, like from what I saw from the TVs in the aisles, he was having a hard time hanging on, Tevin. And Kid Austin, not even Kid Austin, his dad. His dad, made sure, I guess, that his son delivered on everything that he talked in the fight week. Because, yeah, he said that he wasn't he wasn't no Camarón Cepeda, right? He was better, right? He was trying to tell Tevin that even though he had fought with the Muratayas, right? With Camarón Cepeda, that he had not met a guy like Kid Austin. And even though, yeah, like a lot of people can say that Tevin Farmer was already quote unquote washed and had been washed. No, yeah, nobody had done him like that. And it's not like, I mean, yeah, he did take, it wasn't like punishment, but it does take a lot of work, right? To survive against guys like with such a high punching rate, like Zepeda, who keep you on your toes the entire time because they're so busy. So maybe things like that also, doesn't have to be physical. Maybe things like that also take a toll. Um, but completely demolished Tevin Farmer. And again, that hurt it for me a little bit because I've always been really fond of just Tevin Farmer. And yeah, like, but I do feel like Kid Austin, this was a perfect um performance for boxing fans because boxing fans have short-term memory. So yes, they're mad at him currently for the whole thing with the Shakur Stevenson fight in Turkey and saying that the passport and he got poisoned and all this other stuff that they said. But at the same time, if he keeps giving these type of performances as the opposition improves, and I think he could land another opportunity, right? Because I don't think anybody's gonna want to give him an opportunity now. No, they think that it will just happen because they have one of those low hanky panky belts, but I feel like a lot of fighters would be like, "Yo, are you gonna pull out of the fight?" Right? And just things like that. It's kind of like a little ruins reputation, I feel like. But at the same time, if he's able to again keep putting on his performances and increasing the opposition, then by all means I would love to see him against some of the best at 135. So let's see what he can do and if he's able to escape that, little reputation he got from the Shakur fight. And as for the rest of the fights, to be honest, I didn't see them enough to be able to comment on them. Somebody told me that Holy Home looked like she was on steroids, which I don't know, maybe because they just feel like she's older than that the undefeated Mexican boxer who they brought her up against. Honestly, I haven't watched it, so I don't think I could comment on that. But you guys let me know what you guys thought in the undercard. I know that Julio Iriarte went the distance for the first time in his career. I also didn't watch it, but I did see that he went the distance. So I might catch that just to see how he did going the distance, especially because I'm pretty sure I've been at like all his first fights except this one. So I mean, I wasn't there yet, so I'm gonna check that out and see if I can catch some of the Before the Bell from the Zone. But you guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and who do you guys feel stole the night, and what you guys thought of Chavez Jr. Because yeah, man, I feel bad for his dad, but at the same time, again, I guess when I think about the bigger scheme of things, this was just again Jake Paul trying to make his name, kind of a little bit elevated. And from a boxing standpoint, both of them are clowns, right? Like, not clowns, because again, I gotta respect everybody that goes and laces them up. That's just a thing, right? But clowns in the way that this is not for anything that means anything in the sport. It means a lot to Jake Paul, I'm sure, because yeah, I mean, yes, he's a YouTuber. And yes, he has all of these things that are in his favor, like the youth, the size, the athleticism that he had, whatever. Like the endless money, right? To all able to basically buy any other resource that he's missing or facilitate anything that money can't buy. So it's like he still got in and boxed with a real boxer, Tommy Fury, which again is not nobody, but he is doing this. Like, we can't just get up and go and fight anybody. Pick one person off the street right now and go fight them. Are you gonna win? Like, so that's what I mean. Like, let alone in a boxing ring, right, with the rules and preparation. So I think for Jake Paul, hell yeah, that probably means a lot to say, hey, I freaking fought Mike Tyson and I fought Chavez Jr., even though it's like a clown thing, he was able to promote it and he was able to have his name attached to these things. So for him, great. And when it comes to Chavez Jr., I think the only thing that I didn't like the whole time is that, this whole thing of just because of his last name. And I think Jake Paul, it's not because of him that people think that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is a big deal, but I feel like this kind of entertained that in a way because honestly, Chavez Jr., yeah, he had a good win as a champ and he, was a solid champ at super middleweight back when he was in his prime. But that was it. He was solid. I don't think anybody ever saw him as like this top champion, like top pound for pound guy, or let alone elite, because he wasn't. He was never elite. He was just an okay champion. Like he was a champ, but even at his time, like the divisions were pretty great, and there was a lot of other talent that overshadowed anything that um Chavez Jr. could get with his nepotism, honestly. And I think last thing what I want to mention too before I go is that they kept saying that this was like a sold out event and that it broke records, that it was like the highest gate for boxing event at the Honda Center. And maybe so, like maybe they did sell the tickets, but honestly, it was not nowhere near as crowded as other events that I went to. And I've been to plenty events at the Honda Center. Ryan Garcia has fought there. Then they mentioned them. Ryan Garcia, Munguia has fought there. Who else has fought there? It's been, I think Ryan Garcia has fought there a couple times. No, I've been there, and the Nate Diaz thing with, I didn't cover that, but my correspondent Danny did, and it just seems like that didn't seem accurate to me, and it might be because the climate right now with ice rates in the communities, that maybe the people who did buy tickets for this ended up deciding to not go because they were scared that there would be some sort of threat like that, or maybe people bought them and just didn't go. I don't know, but it wasn't as crowded. So I don't know where they got that from, but good for them. And yeah, it was a solid event. I do want to give a shout out to also to like MVP's team. And there's another thing, like as a fan, I could understand people being like Jake Paul and his stupid ass promotion. Yeah, but again, I think when you separate Jake Paul and whatever he's doing with his own goal in life of capturing whatever legendary names he wants on his resume, um, his cards are pretty solid, and I do feel like he promotes it really well. Fight Week was popping. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of interactive things in Fight Week for the fans. There was a lot of community engagement. And at the fights, there was like photo booths and like little souvenirs that they were handing out. Honestly, it was um a really cool atmosphere, even because I got in there and to go to the elevator to the press box, there was some like YouTuber fans, I guess. They had like the little Jake Paul mitt, and they're like, "Let's go, Jake!" And it was early as hell. I got there, well, for the fans, like I got there like at 3, and I was late. So I'm just like, they were already there too. So honestly, it is, like I'm done. Like, there's other things going on in boxing that are just as bad, if not worse, plenty worse. So with Jake putting on these other type of events and bringing eyes to prospects, and I do feel like before I used to be like, who's gonna watch this and care if they want to watch Jake Paul? But no, like I feel like especially with performances like Julian, for example, um, that was a good win, right? And there was a lot of good wins, and I just feel like regardless, his fighters do get promotion, whether it's for the boxing fans to consume or for the YouTuber fans. He is incorporating some great fights. And speaking of, I will be covering um Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor 3, or Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3. I'll be in New York Wednesday. So yeah, tune in for the channel. And if you're going to be in New York, say hi if you see me, because I will be at the Madison Square Garden on fight night. And I'm just really excited. So let me know what you think in the comments. I've yapped enough. I've yapped enough. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.